Hey YouTube, this is Raj, and today I'm going to be talking about boots and boot enchantments. There are definitely a lot of options with enchantments for boots. It's kind of an interesting dilemma for you if you want to enchant your boots, what you specifically want to enchant them with. So what I'm going to do is an overall summary of the enchantments for the boots. If you're interested, I've also done videos on each individual enchantment for boots, so you can check those out if you want more detail. So why don't we get started and talk about the boots in Minecraft? So let's talk about the enchantment with boots. If you look here, there are quite a few options for boot enchantments, and there's definitely a lot of different ways that you can go with it. So what I'm specifically going to be talking about is the things that change the function of the boots or add function to the boots. The things that are basically defensive and reduce the damage, or can actually be used to increase melee damage, which is interesting with armor. Uh, Things that involve the durability of boots, and basically the things to completely avoid. So let's start with Feather Falling 4. So Feather Falling 4 is definitely something you should have on your boots. Basically, it increases the height that you can fall from. So the best way to think about it is, let's say you're 3 blocks up. If you fall 3 blocks, it doesn't do any damage. But what Feather Falling does, if you use that base of 3, basically for each level of Feather Falling, you have 2 blocks that it won't basically do damage when you fall. So if you're doing that 3, if you add 8, if you fall from 11, basically you won't do any damage. So it basically gives you an 8 block cushion for taking fall damage. So it's definitely worth considering, because I have fallen so many times to my death in Minecraft, and this is very valuable. So these two enchantments are very interesting. So basically, they're incompatible with each other. They have completely opposite functions. So let's talk about Frostwalker 2 first. So if you're not familiar with Frostwalker, basically what it does is, it allows you to walk on water. And what it does is, when you walk on the water, it creates frosted ice. And as you keep walking, it'll frost the ice and give you a path, basically. And basically, depending on the light level, it'll break the ice. So eventually that ice will disappear. So it's useful if you just want to walk across ice and you don't want to deal with having to swim, or getting into a boat. Basically, you just can keep walking on the ice as long as there's 1 block of air above it and it's still water. The opposite of that is Depth Strider 3. So what Depth Strider 3 does, and is pretty useful if you look at it, is basically if you're walking in water, let's say you're at the bottom of a river and you're walking along it. In Minecraft, you are way slower when you're walking horizontally at the bottom of water. But what Depth Strider 3 does, at the maximum level, basically you're walking like normal in water. So basically, it completely negates any decrease in speed in water. But it only applies to horizontal walking. So basically, if you're swimming up to the surface, you'll still be super slow. But if you're walking around in water, or you're just like swimming horizontally, you'll be going at the normal speed that you do when you're on land. So it's a useful enchantment if you're planning to do something underwater. And Frostwalker is useful in its own way too. So it depends on what you plan to do with your boots. So the next thing is the different protections in Minecraft. So obviously, being armor, you want to reduce the amount of damage you do. And each one of these are specific to what kind of damage you want reduced. So protection is very generalized. It basically reduces your damage by 16% if you have protection enchantment on your armor. Fire basically reduces the time that you're on fire, or the damage you take from fire, basically. Blast is from creepers and TNT. It decreases the damage by 32%. And projectile is from arrows or charges. So basically things like blazes and ghasts, and also skeletons from arrows. So obviously you got to pick one of these. They're incompatible with each other, so I'd probably say protection is the best bet. One thing to consider is that fire is useful in basically the way fire is useful is basically it reduces the amount of time that you're on fire. But the thing is, you don't need fire protection on every piece of armor. You just need it on one piece of armor, because what happens with fire protection is it takes the highest level of fire protection of all your pieces of armor and uses that. So if you think about that, if you have one piece that has fire protection, you'll basically get the same benefit if you put every single piece of armor with fire protection. I mean, obviously you're still going to get fire damage, but at least if you get lit on fire, it reduces the time that you're on fire. And I mean, you do get a lot of damage when you're lit on fire. But I would probably say protection is probably the best bet. So the next one is Thorns 3. So Thorns is a very interesting enchantment. So basically, let's say a zombie attacks you and does damage to you. What Thorns does is it basically, well, reciprocates in a way. Basically, when the zombie attacks you, if you have Thorn enchantment on your armor, the zombie will get damage also. And when you get Thorn 3, it'll increase the damage quite a bit. So it's basically there's a percentage chance that it may actually inflict some damage. And it's interesting because if you have your boots, your leggings, your chest plate, and your helmet all with thorns, it can do quite a bit of damage to something that's attacking you. So it's definitely an interesting enchantment to have on your armor. And the one that pretty much every single thing applies to this is Unbreaking 3. So obviously you got durability on your boots. Whenever you get attacked, it uses up durability. So basically when you get attacked, it uses up less durability. So basically your armor will last longer. The other thing to consider is item durability and armor durability are very different. So armor durability is not as useful as item durability. The percentages are very small and minute. I believe it's 30%. Well, I mean, like 70% that it'll still decrease the durability, as where with an item, it'll decrease the durability by only 25%. So there's a huge difference between putting Unbreaking on armor versus items. So Mending 1. Mending is obviously one of the most valuable enchantments in Minecraft. What it does specifically is for one piece of orb, 1 XP orb, it'll increase the durability by +2. This is very valuable because basically it increases the durability of your item, and it's possible for you to never use up that item as long as you keep getting XP. It's a bit tricky with armor because let's say you have multiple items with XP, it's kind of random where the XP goes. So it's a bit tricky with armor. I mean, XP banks now are very useful, so you might be able to get around that with an XP bank, or if you have some kind of XP farm, it can definitely restore your boots. But obviously, mending on boots is not a high priority, I would say, unless you have a ridiculous amount of enchantments. And the two ones to avoid are Curse of Vanishing and Curse of Binding. So Curse of Vanishing, you die, it's gone. Pretty straightforward. Curse of Binding isn't that bad, I would say. It just means that you can't get rid of that. You can't remove it from its armor slot. So if you have it on your boots, you can't remove it from the boots and you'll be stuck with those specific boots. So it's not that bad, but it's definitely something to avoid. So those are all of the enchantments for boots. You definitely have a lot of options with the enchantments. I mean, it's to sum them up super quick. Feather falling damage just means less damage when you fall. These ones give you the option of either walking on water or being able to walk through water super quick. These are the types of protections that you'll get. I would probably say protection is the best. Thorns, it's nice if you have it, but you don't really need it. Unbreaking is obviously useful for anything. Mending, if you have a lot of mending, might as well use it on pretty much everything. but there's a lot of options. And I mean, how do I describe this? So basically, some of them I would put what you can on your boots, but I don't want to go out of the way to put everything on your boots. So definitely pick what you want to put on there, but don't go out of your way to put like everything on there, because it'll be pretty costly to put a lot of this on to your boots. But there's a lot of options, and there's a lot of different ways. There's also, if you think about feather falling and something like Depth Strider, they have different purposes to them, so you don't have to like direct your boots in a specific way. You have a lot of different functions that you can add. I mean, you can add fall damage, being able to walk through water, protect yourself. It also does melee damage. I mean, those are a lot of different functions for your armor, which is kind of unusual in Minecraft because most things are very specific, or they're very different. They're very centered in a specific way. They're not a lot of purposes. So I'd say with boots, you have tons of options. So that is the boot enchantments in Minecraft. There's definitely a lot of options to do with boots. You can definitely direct them in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of useful functions for boots. If you're interested, I've done videos on every single individual enchantment for boots. So if you're interested in Feather Falling, Depth Strider, Frostwalker, I have literally done every single enchantment, a video for it. So you can go into detail and look at what is good and what is bad, and the specifics of what specific amount of damage it does, or the specific effects of it. So it's definitely worth checking out those specific videos and then coming back to this and figuring out how you want to enchant your boots. So check that out. If you like this video, please give me a like. If you want me to keep producing content, give me a subscribe, and you could leave a comment. Yes, I'm going to guilt you into leaving a comment. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. I appreciate it. But stay classy, YouTube, and go through life guilt free. Have a good day.